Hiya. So, step 3. So, what we should have now is we should have a little bit of an underpainting. Now, the good thing is about using oils, although I feel is because the oils stay wet longer, you can do a lot more playing about and blend it in and rub it down and take it off. So you can spend a lot more time with the oil paint. With the acrylics, because it dries so quick as well, you don't have that time. So what I've done on my palette now is I've added some slow dry medium that'll help with the glazing and the stay wetness of the acrylics. So I'm going to carry on now with this. If we don't talk, don't worry, just watch what we're doing. I'm going to carry on now with this, adding a little bit more blue to my grey and try and lift it out a little bit more, yeah? Also, what you need to decide is how you want to paint. I'm keeping it quite loose. I'm keeping the brush strokes really loose, and then you can decide how much detail you want to put in it as well. So you can just have a little think about, and that's what you're trying to do, is just trying to find how you want to paint. Like I like doing that, just brush stroke it. Because I've added the medium to it, it's given it a little bit of a glaze as well, and the glaze is just putting one layer over the top of the other, but the thin enough so you see the underpainting coming through. Said I wasn't going to talk, wasn't I? But there you go.
What I'm doing is I'm just primarily working in white. Again, very loosely at this point. I'm just all these objects are cylindrical, so I am at the moment I'm just trying to impress upon the onlooker now the roundness of the objects by looking them at in a purely basic cylindrical form and trying to describe the shadow pattern of a cylinder, just so I can have a look at the body shapes and where the darks will eventually start to develop.
So as you can see, my brush strokes are a little bit like cross hatching, just mark making as you go. And if I add that medium to it, like I said, it's just a slow drying medium, you can pick it up. Or just add a little bit of water to it as well, to your paint. So as you can see, hopefully, I've started to increase the amount of blue that I'm using, because I'm keeping to my blue and oranges. I still like to keep some of this orange coming through here. Definitely going to keep some in the foreground coming through. I like the way the underpaintings makes it a little bit warmer as well all over. Gives it a little bit more brightness to it. So all I'm going to keep doing now is just keep adding to it. Putting in where it's dark and then adding a little bit of light as we go. into that blue. Watch it from falling off again. But like I said, just try and think about what kind of effect you want to do. So if you want it to be a little bit more smoother, you can just do some blending in with your paint. Yeah. Initially, we want it to be quite loose, and then, like we say, you can add the detail into it as you go along.
I've just started to develop in this area the darks. I'm still not convinced with this composition. This bottle may be for me too over this side, so I'm leaving it at the moment still under a non-committed build of the painting just yet. There's no way you need to go detail straight off. I mean, it only needs to be moved over, I think right now would be half an inch, maybe slightly more, just to bring it more in relationship to the other objects on the painting surface itself. Because in some respects we use subjects as a reference for our own work. So we make a design on the surface, as well as take reference points from the subject matter. It's not a direct copy, and it should never be. It's you're using these to help your design skills grow. That's why we're using white objects, because it eliminates so much clutter, so much visual clutter on the surface, in this case of glass bottles and a pot jar. You can use your umber as a warm colour, so if you want to bring something forward, you use the umber, and if you want to make something go into the background, you can use your blue, your ultramarine in this case, mixed it, or if you want a very dark, mix the two together. But then you lose that that quality that allows a cold paint and a warm paint to visually stimulate the surface of the canvas. You can put far more theatre within your painting.
So as you can see, just slowly keep building it up, adding to it. Really like the way it's going. I like this orange coming through with it as well. So that's what's really good about choosing different colours, like Phil was saying. Because it's white, we can interpret it rather than copy it, and that's where the colour theory comes in. So the different colour grounds that you work on really kind of adds to the work. And again, See, I'm just slowly building that up. You can see that, can't you? Nice brush stroke. Keeping my depth into it by dark and light. It's good. And you can be really arty. See, the reason why these long handled brushes is so if you're working at it easily, you step back a little bit and you can just make those little brush marks with it. Yeah. So again, I've mixed the So Medium gel with my paint, a little bit of water, not too much water, just to kind of keep the paint flowing a little bit. So it's quite dry, so I've used quite a dry brush on the background initially, and then I'm just, like I said, my brush is damp, but not too wet, because I don't want the paint to be too thin, because if you paint on top of acrylic as well, if it's too thin it just kind of comes off. So you just need to let it flow. And then once you can, you just have to keep working at it like this, and then look at. And what's good about still life is that it's going to stay there now until I move it. So if I've got the light on it where I want it, I can keep coming back to it, and you know, it'll stay there. So then I can look at where the light just hits places, and that could just be like a little brush stroke. Yeah. Again, you have to think about what kind of look you want it to be.
I'm just doing a bit of negative work on this far side of the bottle down here. I'm just trying to reinforce this edge of the bottle and how it goes with the background at this point here. What I don't need to do, I can build up the colour, the depth of dark of the shadow here, and I can manipulate this, the edge of the bottle. It doesn't have to be detailed all along the length of the bottle. The line can soften, the edge can soften. As it fades into the border of the painting. You saw that while looking at a painting, you really don't need your eyes to be focusing on areas that are really outside the painting. This is where the important thing is happening. So if you can soften the edges, the outer line edges, and put a little bit more detail and a little bit more render within a particular area, and then in some respects fade out from that area into almost a vignette, then again I think you get a far more established painting and a far more knowledgeable painting for both you, the painter, and your audience.
Okay, so what we just need to do is I'm going to just keep working at it. And once you've got the whole drawing in and you've got your first layering, and then it's just a case of keep going in and picking out little areas and just keep adding to it and keep going round it as well, yeah? So we'll carry on a little bit with that, and then we'll come back and you can see how far we've got with it, okay? So again, if you want to ask me any questions, you can either leave me a question underneath the YouTube or Zoom in, or you can email me, okay? So look forward to seeing what you've been doing. Thanks.